the running back room has been so much fun to watch. They brought in Murray late, and we thought this guy was probably just going to be a practice squad guy, a break the glass in case of emergency guy. This dude comes in and basically took over the running back 2 position. He's getting a ton of good reps, and he just brings a different physical presence than Cook and Harris in many ways, just at the size alone. But he has a very good, powerful downhill running style. Then you got the slasher and Cook. I just love the committee they have going right now, and it showed in that Raiders game. They were super efficient, and again, that multiplicity in the different personnel groupings, whether we're talking tight ends or running backs, was just so much fun to watch in this game. It's really a game when we're talking about the run game. It's the game that is almost like a blueprint for the rest of the season, right? When we're talking about having that complement to Josh Allen, that passing game, exactly what they did against the Raiders is what they need to look at when they need to come back to square one and go back to that blueprint.
Yeah, this one was really beautiful, and it in its execution, and also because selfishly it tied into a piece that we've talked about a bunch on this show all offseason. We talked about, if O'Cyrus Torrence wins the right guard job, his physical presence, his people moving ability, would we see more of a downhill running attack? Would we see more of a run game that had more vertical displacement? It could be inside zone. It could be duo. And, and would we see more, gap scheme runs in general where he's pinning and you're seeing, McGovern, pulling and so on and so forth. We saw a ton of duo in this game. We're going to show you folks some reps of it as we go forward. But it's nice to see the running back skill set and play style meshing well with the offensive line. James Cook's ability to get downhill in a hurry with his vision and his burst, and how that pairs with duo works really cool. Well. So beautiful. And then on the other side of it, you've got Latavius Murray, who was just this hammer and is like, just give me a crease, and even if it's not there, I'm just going to be big and huge and physical and just maul my way through. And Damian Harris is a little bit in that hammer mold, but a little different as well. And they spread the ball around well in that week 2 game. And Eric, this graphic is just, really telling for, you see the total attempts there, but the EPA per attempt for each guy, that's a successful week for these 3 running backs in a game where you wanted the offense to get right. You wanted Josh Allen to not feel like he had to do everything himself. And the running game was there, and these running backs really significantly helped the offense.
Yeah, for week 2, they were all on the plus side of EPA per attempt. So I like, again, the distribution, 17 attempts for Cook, 7 for Harris, 6 for Murray. And I liked when they used those guys in the certain situations that came up, whether it's down and distance or, again, personnel groupings, right? And, we talked those 12 and 13 personnel groupings, but all 3 of them, when the Bills brought those heavy sets in, all 3 of them got their touches in those looks, and they were on the plus side. We're talking some of the carries. Again, we're going to break down some of those plays. But now if we kind of scale it back and not just talk about week 2, but talk about the entire season, and we're talking the run game for the Bills, running backs only. So no run game from the quarterback at all. Look at some of their rankings, Anthony. I mean, top 10 in basically every major category. When we're talking EPA per rush, they're ranked 6th. Yards per rush, 5.22. They're 5th. Rushing yards, 235. The 2 stats I really like next are the yards before contact per rush at 1.67. That's top 10. So again, the amount of yards that the running backs are getting before there is any type of contact, that's nearly 2 yards. That's 8th overall. Yards after contact per rush, this is even more mind-blowing. It's 3.56 yards. So 3.56 yards after contact per rush, they're averaging right now. That's 4th overall, Anthony. I mean, that right there is what we've wanted to see. Because last year, the Bills were top 5. I think they're even top 2 when it came to running backs only. No, actually, they were top 3. They're 3rd overall in running in yards before contact per rush. Correct. All right. So they were 3rd overall. So the line, they were getting them some yards before contact, but some of the issues that arose were after contact. And you can see it this year, again, with those bigger backs and some of those power guys, and even Cook looking slippery at times. They're getting yards after contact.
That's such a key piece, right? Like, you add more of the physical downhill running backs with Harris and Murray, guys who are known for, breaking arm tackles and falling forward. And we've seen that from them. And that's, again, a significant piece that's been added to this offense. But Cook falls into that significantly. Like, I just didn't expect the type of run toughness, contact balance that we've seen from him this year, like the slipperiness, like you've talked about, like his ability to get out of arm tackles, his ability to run through shoulders, his ability to fall forward. Even I'm thinking of Ooh, which run? I think it's one of the duo runs, but there were so many plays for Cook in this game. He's about to go out of bounds, but he drops the shoulder and lowers it into the safety right into
Yep.
the end just for a little physical oomph. Like him just playing with that physical edge, with the burst and juice that he has, it's just a whole commitment. I think it's the identity of these running backs. I think it's the identity and pairing it with this run game. And who knows, maybe Harris and Murray are always giving him crap in practice, calling him like a little guy and say he can't break tackles and stuff like they can. And just, you see those numbers you had in the graphic. One I wanted to pull as well that I mentioned to you offline, the Bills as a team are fifth in EPA per rush in the red zone. And then if filter out some of the teams that have less than 5 carries, there's 29 teams that have at least 5 carries in the red zone. They're third as a team in EPA per rush. We saw Damian Harris with a touchdown in the low red zone this week. I think a 4-yarder or a 4-yarder for Murray, like a 1-yarder for Harris. That physicality, that downhill style, it's pairing well with this offensive line. It pairs well with 12 and 13 personnel, like we're going to talk about. It plays well out with this offense. And this is in my notes later, but we'll talk about it now
Killed
from
it.
Bob. Bob saying this is what the Bills need when Josh is having one of his sugar high games. Put the game in the hands of the line and the RBs. It gives Josh a chance to settle down and keep the chains moving. Exactly. How much have people talked about like, oh, well, Ken Dorsey needs to rein Josh in, or Josh needs to rein himself in, by taking these checkdowns and working underneath. What's the easiest way to rein Josh Allen in? Call a run play and make him turn around and hand the ball off, and then just keep
Yeah.
working 5, 6, 7 yards of pop like the Bills have been.
Take some of that responsibility off him. Give him a playoff, right? He just hands it off and runs the keeper, makes it look like he's running sometime, kind of boot. Give him a breather. Give him some time off. There aren't many opportunities to do that for a quarterback. There aren't many opportunities, even more so for a guy like Josh Allen, who brings it not just in the passing game, but also with his legs and from the shoulders up. So it's nice to have a run game to complement. Again, the offensive line had over the last couple of years has gotten, some holes open for some of the running backs, but it's almost like the complement of running backs weren't quite there. Zach Moss is having some pretty good success right now, in Indy. And that's what they kind of wanted to, kind of complement Singletary over the years, but they were almost too similar. So it's nice that they were able to get a guy like Damian Harris, who's always been in that, top 10 range when it comes to yards over expected, and stuff like that. And then again, a big physical presence in Murray, who just has such good vision, wastes very little time behind the line of scrimmage, and just gets north and south, and then finishes, as you saw in that end zone run.
Yeah, it's a real no nonsense type of running back group. Like even throwing Cook in there as well. Like he's been more of a decisive runner, a little patient as well, but kind of making that one cut and go, taking advantage of his burst and his juice. But again, like with that, the short yardage area, with the red zone area, and how it just all pairs well with this offensive line, like having this true physical downhill presence of a run game is so important. And then now it starts to open more opportunities for explosives with the under center play action game. And now you get into all these mismatch opportunities with your 12 and 13 personnel. And if the defense stays in nickel, and all these things we're going to talk about as we go forward. But Eric, it's a huge thing for the Bills to have this pivot in their offense with the run game, to have this complementary aspect. So whether it's a matchup piece in a given week and they need to lean more into the run game, or there's a weather issue for a game, or they just need to calm Josh Allen down a little bit, knowing that they have this in their game and their arsenal is absolutely tremendous.
Sophia, thank you. She says smash for top shelf analysis. Go Bills. Thank you, Sophia. We appreciate that super chat. If you guys have any questions or comments, concerns, you want to throw a statement out about this game or what the Bills are doing this year so far, especially if you want to talk scheme, like bring it, send us a super chat and we'll bring it up on the screen. Sophia, we appreciate that. Again, you guys really drive this show. But there is one comment I wanted to bring up here because it makes a ton of sense. It's good lead into this. Steve says Josh under center really helps the run game as well. I know Josh hates it, but the O-line and running backs will thrive if he does it. And this is something I want to talk about, not just from being under center versus shotgun, but from Aaron Kromer's sense and what he's teaching up front and the offensive line, because I have felt that this year you're seeing a great mesh between the passing game and the running game so far. Again, we're only 2 weeks in. It's one thing that was kind of disjointed in past years. Again, they were heavy shotgun for a majority of the season the last few years because of Josh Allen and just wanting him to see the field and keeping that run ability as a threat, whether it's zone read, some of those counter bash plays and design runs for him. But now that they scaled that back a little bit, they almost have built a different part of their offense in with a lot of these under center runs. We're going to talk about it. We keep alluding to it. Duo run. We're going to talk about it
Mhm.
and show you the film on it. But I just feel like the concepts and the formations have just been so much better brought together between the passing and the run game. And I got to give that credit to Cromer and Dorsey because this offseason they did a little R&D, and I think so far through 2 weeks it's really showed off. It's really showed out on film for us.
It really has, seeing the concepts that they're getting to from a run standpoint and a pass standpoint out of similar personnel groupings and similar formations. It's just where like such good offensive play exists in the
Mhm.
NFL. I remember watching what's his Jeff Stoutland, the offensive line coach for the Philadelphia Eagles. I was
Eagles.
watching a clinic with him, and he was talking about how every run that the Eagles have in their package in their playbook, they have a play action pass that is the exact same look off of
Mhm.
that run action for every run that they have. And that may seem like, oh, like that seems like such a basic thing, but that's so important because then when you start to work and succeed with the run game, when you show that action, those second level defenders, they get sucked in even harder because they have to honor that run because one, the threat of the run is real. Two, you're showing that same action because, oh, the run action looks the same when you're running it versus play action. And all of a sudden you can hit them behind in the intermediate and those explosive areas. It's, it's a nice schematic piece, like you said, Nick. You tip your cap to Dorsey and to Cromer. The way things early on, 2 weeks in, small sample size. And again, the Raiders are not a quality unit on the defensive side of the ball. But what we saw from a design standpoint against the Raiders was tremendously encouraging. And then pairing that with the execution, even more so.
Right. And so we're going to transition to the film now. Again, we're talking the Bills running game. And again, we talked about how they've gone under center a little more, especially in this game. They went under center a little more. But I want to talk about concepts now. We talked about the formations, personnel groupings, and all that. And I want to talk about concepts. And one of the major concepts that the Bills have used is called duo. And Anthony, you said it in our interaction on social media. Let everyone know what duo is and how it's referred to.
I'm on mute.
Okay,
Embarrassing.
it's all right. I was gonna let you
So
slide. You're good.
I got to call myself out. I'm a man of my word. So duo, the tagline for it is referred to as power without a puller. It is a downhill run concept. The running back is reading the play side linebacker. It gives you the opportunity and gives that running back with his track to stay inside based on what opens up, or depending on how the front is aligned, the defense can get washed down. You have the opportunity to bounce that run outside if you're the running back and get a one-on-one with a corner or whoever that outside DB potentially is.
Mhm.
So it's a nice physical gap scheme run. Again, it's referred to the tagline for everybody, power without a puller. It's an opportunity to create vertical displacement, really kind of bully defenses and get
Mm.
them off the line. And you see it on this play, in a multitude of ways, especially with Dalton Kincaid
Yes.
and Deion Dawkins. And also one little piece for like the duo name with it, like the hallmark of it too, power without a puller, but you're getting double teams and offensive linemen or, together or pairing with tight ends, attacking that first level defender, one of them climbing to the second level. And that's how it works.
Yeah, usually there's 2 double teams on this play, but,
Mhm.
because of this front and being in a low red zone and the goal line look from the defense, you're not getting those. But what you talked about bullying. You get the bullying right here by Kincaid and Dawkins. Watch the displacement they create right there, and then they're working towards that linebacker who you said is the read. Now, typically, if this linebacker shoots a gap right here, then the running back is obviously going to bounce it outside. On this play, you see Spillane kind of go outside and work over the top of that combo right into the hands of Kincaid. And that allows Murray just to stay inside and basically has a runway to get north
Mhm.
and south. I like this wrinkle that they're adding this year with bringing Gabriel Davison to help
Mhm.
out.
Yeah, a
They
little
did it with
insert.
Kincaid. He inserts on this play as you get the base block by Knox on the outside. He kind of just walls this guy off. He accounts for the safety, so he's picked up. What we'll see sometimes is, and we saw it in this game where this guy kind of washes someone down, and then the safety is coming from depth, and you're going to see Kincaid. Kincaid came down
Mm.
and blocked that edge player, so it's almost like a cleanup. He
Mhm.
cleans up the edge because if the running back bounces, then he can get outside there cleanly. And as we always talk about with duo, especially from under center, this is a play that typically is going to bounce,
Mhm.
and that bounce is going to put a running back one-on-one with a corner. We always talked about, we talked about last week when Josh Allen was hitting Knox and Kincaid quickly underneath and making corners tackle tight ends. Well, that's what they want on this play. They want that running back to eventually bounce it. That linebacker comes downhill. They want that running back to bounce it so they can get that one-on-one with the corner, make them tackle Murray, make them tackle Harris. Heck, even try to tackle Cook. The dude's so
Mhm.
slippery. Like you're gonna see a play. He makes a great cut and gets north and south. But this is duo. This is the gap run. When PFF charts things, it's either gap or zone. But there are way more concepts under each of those umbrellas.
Mhm.
This technically is a gap run, but as you guys know, because when people say gap runs, most think what? Power, right?
Yeah,
Power,
power
counter
counter.
tray,
Mhm.
right? You have a puller. That's not the case with duo. It's still in the gap family. And that's why the Bills primarily right now through 2 weeks, Anthony, are a gap team because they have the most runs in this family. But it's because of this play. It's a play without a puller. It's a power run without a puller. So this is what we wanted to focus on when it came to the run game because the Bills ran this, I mean, several times.
Yeah.
I think they had what 20 gap runs in this game, right? They had 20 gap
Yeah.
runs. Only 6 of those were actually runs with a puller. This
Huge.
play they ran like 7 or 8 times alone.
And it's worked, like that
Yes,
downhill nature of it. And yeah, on the year, they're sitting at, what is it, through 2 weeks, 29 gap
29.
runs and 11
Mhm.
zone. I also like on that piece too, you talked about, this goes back to the graphic, yards before contact. Like, Murray doesn't get touched until he gets to the goal line
Right.
because of what happens on that left side. And then because he gets that runway and has that physicality, just puts his shoulder down and runs through Spillane and Epps. And, do also, for those, just in case you ever wonder, like, duo is always run to the tight end side, like you see here.
Mhm.
And also a fun piece with having Knox and Kincaid here, kind of tying it to what defenses are going to do when they match. The Raiders are still in nickel here. So they're trying to fit this run against Kincaid, against Knox, against Gabe Davis, against Deion Dawkins. They're trying to fit it with, a nickel corner, a regular corner, like a safety. Like, that's not ideal for a defense. And so if your 12 personnel grouping can function in the pass like Kincaid and Knox can, but if they can function in the run game like they can here,
Right.
that's where that real advantage of 12 personnel starts to show through, because now you got true mismatch potential in both the run and pass.
Yeah, and here's one from Harris. So again, we're showing you this same duo play with each different running back with Josh Allen under center. I mean, look at Dawkins has been a monster in the run game. And in my
Mm,
opinion, that's really not his strength over the course of his career. He's been more of a pass blocker, but dude, some of these runs, these combo blocks, look at the displacement he put
yeah.
on that guy. He damn near knocked him to the other A gap and then he climbed to the next level. Harris's vision isn't all that good here, but the yards he's able to get, before he's even really contacted is phenomenal. Again, and you're talking in a situation where the field is flipped. You're backed up. You're
Mhm.
basically on your own 5-yard line. Your back's to the goal line, and you're able to trot out this heavy, run set look and let them know, hey, we're running the ball. It's pretty obvious we're running the ball, and they're still able to pick up a chunk of yardage on this play.
I love how Dawkins chucks his man so hard that it also kind of like throws McGovern off
McGovern,
kilter. Like, he's just like, what the hell just
he's
happened?
doing like a
Yeah,
pirouette.
he tries to
What just hit me?
he spins out of it. Watch him as he like puts his hands wide when he spins out of it, like he's trying
Yeah.
to catch his bearings. He's like, okay, whoa, like, because he just kind of put him into the spin cycle a bit. But again, talking about, what do we talk about? Like, yards before contact for the running backs, the vertical displacement that we talk about with the downhill style of this scheme. That's why the Bills continue to work it. Like, they're sound technically with it, and it continues to win. We'll see what happens, as they play a much better defensive line in Washington this week, although they were gouged a bit in the run game, particularly by gap runs, not necessarily duo, but that's a conversation for another time. Again, vertical displacement. I wish Harris cut
Mm,
initially and didn't have to
mhm.
get bounced into the
Right.
hole, kind of like a little pinball. Like, yeah, exactly. Like, if he hits
Money.
that alley right off the rip, he has the opportunity to be one-on-one with Epps, who's coming down from that post safety. And then if you put a move on him, who knows what
Yeah.
potentially happens. It's just a scheme that continues to work for them for all three running backs. And then Even the tight ends working it through as well. Like it's just something, and you don't have to be a mauler. You don't have to be Kincaid and drive somebody into the ground. Like just get into the kitchen of your man, occupy him, let the scheme take over, let the running backs take over.
Yeah, and this is again, this is duo. This time, it's Gilliam, and I think that's Morris at tight end. So a different personnel grouping on this play, and then this is Cook's big run. Bounces, shows like he's gonna bounce outside, but then cuts it back inside for a chunk play. And I think this is the run that put him over 100, right? This put him over 100
Yes.
yards
Yeah, he finished
from
with
on the ground.
123 for the day.
Like this is just beautiful and how he sets us up. Here comes the linebacker downhill. So what does Cook do? He bounces it outside. Oh,
Mhm.
that corner is coming down, right? He's gonna have to make the tackle. What does Cook do? He said, nope. Oh, look at this gap. Sets it up perfectly and then makes that guy miss. Just slippery. More of a slasher, not that power, downhill type presence, more of a slasher. But man, it's such a different change of pace when you're comparing his type of running style to Murray and Harris.
And it all fits within this scheme because it's such, I don't want to say simple and downplay, but it's such a simple read if you're the running back. Like you take that step and you can watch Cook on this play. Like he's eyeing up Spillane as soon as he's taking that handoff. He sees
Mhm.
Spillane start to come through. And so exactly like you said, puts his foot in the ground, bounces it, makes
Mm.
another cut. So if
Props,
you're
props though, props right here on this double team, Brown
yes,
and Torrance. He and Torrance senses that run through, and boy, does
pops
he put
off.
a stop to that. Boom.
And then that's where you're going to have the advantage against smaller, quicker linebackers if you're Osiris Torrance, because when they try to shoot, if you just get a body or a paw on them, you're going to stop them in their tracks like Torrance does here. But again, that's part of the nature of why we were excited when they drafted Torrance, because it was like, are they trying to move to more of a downhill like run scheme with like that vertical displacement aspect? And they get it. And what we've showed you here with these three runs, like it could be Cook, where you're slippery and a slasher and you flow. You could be a hammer like Murray or a hammer like Harris. Like either way, this run scheme can work for you because of how the offensive line blocks it, because your read is a running back. This is the one too that I like.
Yeah.
This is the duo in a nutshell of just put your running back on, in theory, the worst tackler on a defense and let him go to work.
Yeah, and again, this is out of shotgun, so it's the same concept, but this time it's from shotgun. And I talked about Kincaid being the cleanup here. Watch how Knox and Dawkins are washing these guys down, and then you got this defender number one coming down to kind of fill, so they have numbers with the cornerback as well. Well, guess what? You have Kincaid to clean that up, seal that off, and now you get the one-on-one running back on
Mm,
that DB, and then he did this like 2 weeks
mm,
in a row now, where
yep.
he has made the contained player lose his assignment, and he's able to get outside to move the chains. Like his burst and acceleration really have caught guys off guard, especially when we're talking these runs where he can bounce it out wide.
And that's such a huge difference for the Bills run game and the Bills offense. They have not had a running back with that kind of juice where like Bennett isn't in horrible position there. Like and Cook just bubbles it out and goes backwards to just get around the corner because he has that speed and because he has that juice. And so that's where the
And they
individual
know it's
skill
coming.
set. Yes,
They freaking know it's coming. Look at this. Look, it's coming over there.
and they're calling it out. And so what are they trying to do on this time? Like again, they're calling it out. The other times
Thumbs
the
down.
run ended up staying on track and went inside, but this is what we talked about earlier, Eric, with how that duo run can turn into, or what it can turn into. If that side gets washed down, the running back is going to read that track and adjust and bounce it outside. He just gets a one-on-one. And it's similar to what happened with Brees Hall against Trey the other week. Again, different kind of idea, but
Mhm.
the theory of you want or run games, offensive line coaches, offensive coordinators, they want to put their running backs in scenarios where they're one-on-one with, again, in theory, most defenses' worst tackler is probably going to be their cornerbacks, either because of technique or size or just because of effort, and they don't want to. Bennett's got the effort here. He just gets blown by Cook, and that's the type of, again, another mismatch that you can create this time in the run game. And again, based on the personnel that the defense is in, they get washed down easy against the bigger physical framed tight ends the Bills have, create a one-on-one matchup on the outside, and Cook eats.